Ladies and gentlemen, once again, pleasant good evening. It is your boy Louis coming back at you with another one. Second straight video in the building. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure your post notifications are turned on, make sure you're sharing on your social media platforms. Truly appreciate that. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Tuesday night, man. Peace and blessings to everybody. Hope you guys are all safe and have had a wonderful day. On to the video. So, even though I have not watched First Take, I've seen a couple of clips with a couple of segments within the first 2 days with Shannon Sharpe debuting on First Take and him and Stephen A going back and forth. I think they're gonna have a tremendous season together, being this is their first season together. So I think they have unbelievable chemistry. But in continuation, they had a segment about the LeBron and Michael Jordan debate. And Shannon had mentioned about LeBron and what happened with the Boston Celtics in 2010. And he got emotionally upset that they mentioned about how LeBron had to be sedated. And, Stephen A had brought up the idea of Dan Gilbert accusing him of quitting. And then he ended up taking his talents and going to South Beach. Now, the reason that I listened to that very closely was because there's something that I had just thought about that I never even really put into consideration until I thought about it. Here's the reason I said this. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that LeBron James won the 2009 MVP and the 2010 MVP, and the Cleveland Cavaliers had the best record in the NBA back-to-back years, winning 60-plus games. 66 in 09 and 61 in 2010, right? Remember that the Cavaliers went to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Magic, who won 59 games. And we know also that Cleveland had double-digit leads in the first two games and nearly went down 0-2, almost losing the first two games at home after Rashard Lewis, I believe, put them up with a three-pointer. I know he did that in game one, and they lost. But then LeBron James hits that miracle three-pointer off the inbound catch over Hedo Turkoglu and ties the series. But what gets failed to mention is the Cavs almost lose that game, even though they were up double digits in both games 1 and 2. Ultimately, Cleveland goes down 3-1 before winning game 5 at home. They lose all 3 games in the Amway Center in Orlando to lose the series. Well, who was the best player on the team in 2009? That was Dwight Howard for the Magic. Not the best player in the NBA. I said the best player on the Magic. That was Dwight Howard. The Magic were the #1 defense in the NBA that season. And keep in mind that even though they had Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis, they did not have All-Star Jameer Nelson, who was out with a knee injury. And that season, not only did he make the All-Star team, but he damn near had numbers of nearly 20 points and 8 assists on 50, 40, 90 splits. So he was having a career year that year. And I remember how many teams he gave fits that season. And I think the Magic, if I'm not mistaken, they have one of maybe the top 2 or 3 records against the Western Conference that year. That was easily a 60-win team. That's number one. Number two, the Cavaliers lost that series in 6 games with LeBron being the reigning MVP. That's number one. And remember, after game 6, LeBron did not speak to the media for over 2 weeks and did not shake hands with any of the Magic players after the loss. And he got fined by David Stern, and David Stern told LeBron that he had to speak to the media after that. And I remember, and if you guys remember LeBron comments, he said he felt like as a competitor, you're into the, and get into all that. Anyway, fast forward to 2010. Y'all remember that the Boston Celtics ended up facing the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals in the next round. And remember, in that offseason in 2009, the Cavaliers acquired Shaquille O'Neal. Remember? And what did Shaquille O'Neal say in one of the press conferences after he was acquired? I'm gonna help the king get a ring. Those were his words. They had brought him to try to neutralize Dwight Howard in 2010. Now, the Boston Celtics ended up beating the Cleveland Cavaliers after they took a 2-1 lead. And I think LeBron's numbers were crazy ridiculous in the start of that series through the first 3 games. LeBron was averaging over 32 points, and he was shooting damn near 55% from the field. Like he was playing phenomenal. And I forgot how many points he scored in game 3. I think it was anywhere from like 36 to 38 points. And I remember they blew the living crap out of the Boston Celtics in game 3. And I said to myself, Boston got no chance. I said, Boston doesn't. I said, if LeBron's playing like this, I said, the Celtics got no shot. And the Celtics were the 4 seed. And the crazy part about that Boston Celtics team is this wasn't even the best Boston Celtics team LeBron had faced. It was a weaker team. Because keep in mind, to me, in my opinion, the 2009 team was probably their best team. But Kevin Garnett's injury changed everything for the Boston Celtics. And they still almost went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they had a 3-2 lead. They lost the last 2 games of that series to the Magic. They should have clearly went to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't. But anyway, LeBron James plays horrendous in the last 3 games. He did have a 27-point triple-double in Game 6, but I think he had 6 turnovers in that game. And I remember the Celtics played the Magic the very next round. And Jameer Nelson, I believe, played in the series in the conference finals. I could be wrong, but I think he did. And I know that they had Vince Carter on that team. Is it crazy to think that LeBron possibly did not play overall his best? Because in Game 5, you could clearly see that LeBron had mentally checked out in that series. Even though his fanboys want to say he gave it his all in Game 6. But that Game 5 was a throwaway game if you watch the way LeBron played, especially because you had home court advantage and you were at home with that whole Sedata situation. But getting back to what I was saying, is it very possible that LeBron James did not want to face Dwight Howard 2 years in a row against the Orlando Magic? I'm not saying that LeBron is afraid of Dwight when it comes to competition, but I just think when it comes to his resume, it's like LeBron James, back-to-back reigning MVP, back-to-back best record in the NBA, and you lose to the same team 2 years in a row. You lose to the same team 2 years in a row. Because that's something that nobody even mentions. He had lost to Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic in 2009, and that was without Jameer Nelson. Rayford Alston was the backup point guard, was the replacement in the starting lineup. Good Magic team that had floor spreaders, Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis, and Hedo's ability to pass the ball, put the ball on the floor, Rashard Lewis being able to stretch the defense, at their height. And I know what they want to talk about with Zydrunas Ilgauskas not being able to slow down Dwight because of how athletic and young he was, and I get all that, but I'm just thinking to myself, I don't think LeBron wanted to have the stigma of losing to Dwight 2 years in a row, despite the fact that they brought in Shaquille O'Neal to help defend Dwight Howard. Because now Big Z could honestly space the floor. Now, you can't have Big Z and Shaq at the same time because then the Cavaliers are really going to be slow in the front court, because then you would have to move Z to the 4 because Shaq is not a power forward. And Big Z would have to just be able to shoot the ball and Shaq in the paint, but it's like Z is not a guy who really plays off the ball. He would just have to set picks. He would just have to be doing pick and pop and stuff like that. So like I said, I don't know how that lineup would work with Mike Brown. But my point is, it's crazy. I really honestly believe, and it's very possible, that I don't think LeBron would have wanted to lose to Dwight Howard 2 years in a row. Because I think it would have looked bad. It's like, yo, you lost to a center 2 years in a row and you're a perimeter player. You lost to a post player 2 years in a row. And Dwight Howard was a dominant defensive player, but I don't look at him as a dominant offensive player. Because if he was a dominant offensive player, you would have been looking at anywhere from 25 to 30 points per game at the center position. And Dwight Howard, I think the highest he ever averaged in a season was 23. That's not dominant when it comes to being a dominant scorer, especially with the fact that Howard was not even a skilled offensive big man, because his numbers were really more so on pick and rolls, lobs, and putbacks. And even then Dwight Howard showed flashes of the ability to be dominant, but he wasn't consistently dominant on the offensive end just because of his lack of skills, lack of a skill set. And the focus and the drive that you would have to be dominant. At least Shaq, even though he didn't like to practice, at least when he was engaged, Shaq was the most ferocious, dominant player of his era. You can argue. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Louis with another one. I just want to know what your thoughts and comments are on possibly the reason LeBron did not win in 2010. It wasn't just because of really that sedated situation with Delonte West, from what his teammates possibly knew, but the fact that Dwight Howard, he would have had to face 2 years in a row, and the possibility of losing again, not only having the best record in the NBA, but at the same time, LeBron James being the MVP of the NBA for the second year in a row. Just something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Bless up, live, love, love. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.